Hi everybody, my name is Donetta Ernest and I am the principal here at MMACHS, and we are so excited to get this year started off with really clear targets so that our students can be successful. This is not how we would have imagined starting school, but in true MMACHS way, we're going to do the best we can with what we have, and we're going to do our very best from the school perspective to make sure that your students are successful, whether they are at home learning, whether we're in a hybrid, or hopefully eventually when they actually get into our building. So my goal today is to make sure that you, the parents, our students, our teachers, and even me are very clear on what our expectations are for our individual roles to create this success for our students. So, student expectations, and I'll run through each of these slides with the kids in the MMACHS 101 live classes, but I thought it was important that you know what we're going to expect from the students, because it is going to look very different. For our parents, parents of sophomores, juniors, and seniors, it will look very different this year compared to last spring. Last spring, we were just kind of trying to keep up one day at a time. Remote learning, and even hybrid remote learning, is going to look very different. First and foremost, you need to understand our terminology. Remote learning is what we're going to be calling anything when they're learning outside of our building. And the term that we're going to use for when they're here is in school. So you might hear those terms a little bit. So remote learning for students is going to look different. It will be what I want them to think is it's exactly like when they're here. They are awake, they are dressed, they are out of bed, they are engaged in the lesson, they will be logged in. It is required that they're logged in the entire lesson or until the teacher dismisses them. The next section here is the attendance is mandatory. If they are not logged in on Zoom, they are marked absent. If they come into the Zoom session late, they're marked tardy. We will have some grace with the technology at first. That's part of the teacher expectations, is to make sure that the students know how to use this technology, what to do if they get kicked off or their Wi-Fi drops them. So we will be graceful, but in the end, this is our attendance policy, and we're required by the state to claim that kid that they are in attendance so that we can get the appropriate funding. So it isn't just us being mean, it's how we can justify the funding that we need to receive for those students. So be aware of that. Our attendance policy is the same. If 6 absences is going to potentially lose credit in that class. So it's very important that they're online on time. Homework and assignments for students. You can be expected the students are going to have normal homework assignments just like if they were here. The one unique thing that we learned from last spring is that all assignments will be due Monday through Friday only, and there won't be any assignments that will be due after 8 p.m. This was a huge piece of what we learned last spring in really being able to establish strong study habits, schedules. We had kids staying up till midnight, turning in late assignments, and it just didn't really create those healthy habits that the kids needed to, just like when they're in school. So what we're asking of the students is make sure those assignments are turned in on time. We really want the students to use their resources. Ask for help if they need it. Advocate for themselves. We're actually going to teach them how to write an appropriate email to a teacher. A lot of what we learned last year is that the students would be like, hey teach, what's up? Can you send me in all this text lingo? And it really wasn't appropriate for, you know, a good professional, respectful communication. Schoology, we have upgraded. We've got all the bells and whistles. It's not just the free Schoology. We actually paid to have the executive version of it. And this platform has so many features, and it will be our home base for our online learning platform. And the beautiful thing about Schoology is whether it's online or we end up all back in the building, Schoology will be used the same. And one of the great things about Schoology is it will now talk to PowerSchool, because I had a lot of calls last year about I don't know what my kids' grades are, one thing in Schoology, one thing in PowerSchool. The beautiful thing is that the company owns both of, the same company owns both of those products. So anything a teacher puts in Schoology will be live, real-time updated into PowerSchool. So in terms of helping with your students, the students need to know that there's going to be other tools. Khan Academy, Flipgrid, CK12. I'm going to allow my teachers to have all those other tools, and the students will have access to them, but they will all have their starting base in Schoology. So just one place, and we're going to teach the kids how to do all that and benchmark those, so those are just really easy access points. Student communication. Again, we learned a lot. We need these students to self-advocate, send appropriate emails. Please don't have your students send an email at midnight and expect my teachers to respond to them, because they probably won't. And more importantly, we want the students to send communication either online or a digital email in the same manner that they would talk to that teacher in person. And so I think that will be a really good barometer as to if that's a good email or not. Would I say this to that teacher's face? So those are some of the student expectations. The teacher expectations are going to follow along just like this. The teachers will support our students with the remote learning to use the new technology. They will make sure that they're trained up in what they need to do and how to problem solve if technology bombs, because it will. They will get kicked off their Wi-Fi at home. Things like that will happen. They will have to rejoin a Zoom class. And we're going to teach them the skills to know what to do instead of just panic and not hear the lesson. Teacher expectations. The wonderful thing about this year that's different is that teachers will be here in the building. They're going to be doing remote teaching, but here in the building, because we think it's really important that they're here and have access to all the available technology, supplies, resources that they need, and their collegiality and working together and having that support. Teachers will have student work that has been turned in and graded. They will have that in PowerSchool or Schoology within 2 days of grading it. Now, of course, there's exceptions to these rules, and so the general barometer for teacher expectations, if this was an assignment that, say, took 2 weeks to complete, maybe a big project, group project, or a term paper, if it took about 2 weeks to get that project completed, that probably means that the teacher is going to need an extended time to get all those projects and or papers graded. So that's a really good thing to ask your kid, like, how long was this assignment? If it was just a daily check-in assignment during the day, you could expect that to be graded and be put into the Schoology within a couple days. Another big thing this year is we're really going to ensure that the teachers give oral, online, remote feedback. In addition, one of our new great bells and whistles of Schoology is that they can actually write handwritten feedback, so students can have a clear understanding of why they didn't understand something or where they went wrong in the math equation. And so they will receive feedback certainly on anything that we're assessing and or determining student growth and learning. They're going to be using Schoology, as I mentioned before. Again, I'm giving them leeway to have other resources, but I do want them to make sure that they're all based out of Schoology. So, for example, one of the math teachers might use Khan Academy. She's going to have a link right on her Schoology page for Khan Academy, so the kids aren't having to, navigate several different websites. Teacher communication with students. Teachers, here's a big change, so listen carefully, and we'll make sure this is very clear with the students. Once school starts, we are only going to communicate with our students via their West Data email. Through West Data and 365, they have access to Gmail, they have access to Google Drives, Google Docs, all those things, and it's based on their school email. And so we will literally be dropping all student emails outside of their West Data email once school starts, and we'll make sure they know that too. But if you can help us to help your students remind that will be great. Teachers will also communicate individually with students who are struggling. Just like in their live classroom, if they're remote learning, they're going to reach out to those students and say, they're going to send them a message in Schoology. They're going to maybe have a phone call. Hey, I see what your grades are doing. So all those same things should happen. All right, so parent expectations. What should we expect you to do? Well, first and foremost, we need your support. This is not what any of us signed up for. None of us wanted COVID. None of us wanted school like this. None of us went into education to be behind a screen. And yet here it is. And so the best way that we can get over COVID is to do what we need to do to end COVID. So remote learning, we need your support first and foremost. We need you to make sure that your students have all the tools they need. And if you don't have those, you have to let us know. If their computer's not working, or if you don't have access to internet, we won't know that unless you communicate that to us. We need you to help establish a quiet workspace for schoolwork. I understand there's going to be other kids at home. I understand some of you might be working out of the house. Please find a spot that's quiet for them where they can work. All of the schools, all the area schools will have Wi-Fi that you can tap into. You could literally go sit in their parking lot and work and zoom in and have access to the Wi-Fi. Encourage healthy habits. Don't let your kids stay up all night. Don't let your kids wait to the last minute. That is a huge piece of MMACHS rigor, is they cannot procrastinate. You need to really make sure that you're staying up with your students, not late at night, staying up on their work to make sure they're not procrastinating, waiting to the last minute and getting into bad habits. Homework and assignments. How can you help as a parent? Check in with your students. We will have access for you to set up your own Schoology account, and we're working on getting those codes out to you. They're all individual codes for parents. We have those. If you want those right away, call us. We'll get you hooked up. In the meantime, we're going to be getting those sent out. Check your Power School. Power School and Schoology talk to each other, so it's going to be really easy. If you don't have the Power School app on your phone, load it right away. The access code is GMBS. Okay? That's all you need for the access code. You load Power School, all your kids are right there, right at your fingertips. And make sure you're checking our websites. Every single thing that you're going to hear about in MMACHS 101, every single syllabi, everything you're going to see will be on our website. Okay? Check those student syllabi. Those teachers put a lot of time and effort into those syllabi, and we need to make sure that those don't go unlooked at. Never fails. 3 weeks into school, the kid will come up, hey, do you accept late work? Hey, can I retake this test? And the teacher is literally going to say, why don't you jump on the website and take a look at your syllabi? Or why don't you look at the syllabi I gave you? And we're probably going to have parents give that same exact response. If you call me or call the teacher, they're going to ask if you could just please check the syllabi. Okay, again, we're trying to teach these kids to be resourceful, use their resources, and solve their problems. Calendar is a huge piece this year. The way that our new Schoology is that every time a kid gets an assignment, it'll load right into their calendar. So have your students show them their calendar. It's going to be a really slick, it's going to be a time saver. Make sure they know due dates. The calendar, what's great is many times the parents wanted to know, I don't know how to tell when things are due or when things are coming up. The calendar is going to be your best friend this year, because as soon as that assignment goes in, all that information will be in your student's Schoology calendar. Student-teacher communication. What is your expectation? As a parent, just like if one of your people that you work with or your subordinate, just like if they had an issue, you would want them to come to you first. Okay, I'm happy to help you. More than anything, I want to solve problems, but I really do want that lowest level person contacted first. So when you call me, the first thing I'm going to say is, have you contacted the teacher? And we're going to do the same thing with the kids. Have you had a conversation with the teacher? So please make sure you're following those steps. If you've met with the teacher, if you're still having trouble, that's when you call me and I can help you with any of those problems or concerns. But please address it at the lowest level, because a lot of times I may not even know the answer, and the teacher could quickly clarify any concern you have. Make sure you're reading the newsletters. There's going to be a lot of digital information since we're not seeing these kids face to face, so make sure you're reading those newsletters. Now, you're going to have, my expectations. So basically, I'm going to try to make sure all those things happen. We're going to be in red for remote learning until further notice. The most updated thing is that we are still in a substantial community spread, so we're in red. If we end up going to yellow, we're going to do some kind of a natural transition. For example, if Wednesday we're in yellow, we're in yellow Wednesday and we found out Thursday, if we're in red and we find out we're at yellow and it's a Wednesday, we won't going to roll Thursday morning. We'll probably say, okay, starting Monday, we're going to go to our hybrid. So it will be a natural transition, but it will be as quickly as we can, because we do, we understand the importance of having face contact with these kids and having them in the building. Attendance is mandatory. Okay, our attendance policy is in place. And I am requiring my teachers to be here in the building, not only for the access to their resources, but also because our professional collaboration is a huge piece of what we do and how we learn from one another, how we share ideas. And as we're reinventing education, the technology alone, I need my teachers to have each other and access to one another to learn from. I will ensure for homework and assignments, I'm going to ensure that those grades are being, the assignments are being graded in a timely manner. I'm going to ensure I have a really unique advantage on this new Schoology platform, that I can go into any class, any assignment, any grade, and I can see what's going on. So my job is to ensure that we have quality, effective instruction happening. My job is to ensure that the teachers have all the tools they need to be successful in this remote learning. And I will make sure that those teachers are having those grades updated as well. Schoology, again, I told you the things that I get to do about Schoology, and the more you are familiar with it, the more you can help your child with that. And student-teacher-parent communication. I will be here every single day, just along with my teachers. I will happily meet with you if you've already had that conversation with those teachers. I will respond to your emails within 24 hours. I will regularly communicate with you as soon as I know. Timelines are hard because I have to sometimes wait for the West Data board meeting to see what their decisions are, and then I have to wait for the MMACHS school board meeting to vote on our decisions based on West Data. So sometimes the information feels delayed, and it's just the nature of me being able to put out information prior to board approval. But I will do my best. Okay, you're going to hear a little bit about COVID expectations. I just want you to understand from the administrative level, these are not optional. We will wear masks. They will be required. We will issue your child a mask if they don't have one. Okay, we are going to sanitize our hands. We are going to sanitize our desks and keyboards and things that we touch in between student use. We're going to ask kids to help with that in a sanitary way. We are training up future health professionals. They are going to have to learn how to do some of this stuff. They're going to have to disinfect things. And so we just think this is a natural part of what we do. So those things are not optional. They are mandatory. And I will continue to communicate with you in terms of what happens if a kid gets sick, what happens if we get a positive test. We have systems in place if a kid gets sick as to what to do at the building level. If we have a positive test reported to us, or if a student was with somebody that had a positive test, I call the CDH and the Central District Health here locally, and they give us all of the advice and recommendations of what we need to do that investigation, who would need to be quarantined, and if and when we would need to shut down the building for an extended quarantine or a deep cleaning. The building will be deep cleaned every Wednesday, which is why even in our hybrid mode, nobody's here on Wednesdays. We're going to be cleaning all of our sanitary gear every 2 days. The towels and the spray stuff. So we're doing everything we need to do. Anything that the students touch on a regular basis will be disinfected. So I will communicate that as quickly and as timely as I can as soon as I have it. So, but be very clear, these COVID expectations with social distancing, masks, and hand sanitizing, it's not an option. Okay, so if that's something that maybe you're not comfortable with, then you can look into an online option. But we just think it's really important to even teach these future health professionals of how we're going to be regardless of COVID-19. So again, there's going to be a link attached to the bottom of this email or on the email with these links. So please, if you have any further questions about my presentation or anything else, or if your kids have come home with information and you're not clear on, please just send us some information, send us your questions in that link, and we'll get those answered to you right away. We're looking forward to a great year. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, MMACHS. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Carrie Staub. I teach 10th grade health professions, 11th grade health applications, elective sports medicine 2, and capstone rehab services. I'm here to talk to you a little bit more about all things COVID and what we're going to be doing to make sure that we can all stay safe. The first thing we want to do, especially with our students, is talk about community. As a health professional, my personal ethics, my personal opinions, my personal beliefs need to be kept in my back pocket. As a health professional, it's my job to implement the rules, regulations, procedures that come down from the top. So we're going to talk about how best to protect our community with regard to the information that we are being given currently. So our community includes MMACHS. It includes all of their own families, all of our friends, and basically all the people we care about. And one of the things that we can do to make sure that we are protecting all of those people that we care about and all of those people that we come in contact with is following the Central District Health guidelines. So, wearing appropriate masks every day. Wearing appropriate masks means that both our nose and mouth get covered. Whether they hang on your ears or you have those little cool clips is totally up to you, but Noses and mouths will be covered while we're inside the classrooms and inside the building. Outside, you may be able to take them off depending on the activities that we're doing, and we need to make sure that those get washed regularly. If they're cloth masks, if they're disposable, they need to be thrown away each day so that we're not continuing to spread anything that we may be spreading. On-campus students are going to have health screenings upon entrance to the building and or classes. So if for any reason students are on campus, they're going to be asked questions like, how are you feeling? Have you had a fever? Have you been in contact with anyone who's tested positive? And things of that nature, just to make sure that everyone is in tip-top shape and we can go about all of our regular activities. We're going to be washing and sanitizing our hands upon entering the building and any classrooms, as Mrs. Ernest pointed out. This is going to happen pretty regularly throughout the day. We will have signs up around campus. We have sanitation stations in each of the classrooms. We have the bathrooms available to students when they're on campus so that they can take care of those issues. Proper hand washing is actually part of our 9th and 10th grade curriculum. So we go through that process pretty extensively with students, and of course that expectation is continued through junior and senior year. Okay, so students are going to be asked to sanitize their workstations. They will have cleaning supplies and personal protective equipment available in the classroom to do so. They will be instructed on how to properly clean and sanitize their workstations. Again, this is in an effort to make sure that all of us stay safe. So we appreciate your assistance with that. We're going to ask students to follow some different traffic patterns. In the hallways, we're going to all stay to the right side so that we're not intermingling too closely with each other. The office front door is going to remain locked. There's a traffic pattern with regard to how to access the school secretary. She's got a window that students will be able to communicate through with her. And if they need to get to the counselor, they'll go to what we refer to as the back door. And if you are new to MMACHS, all of that will be explained so that everybody's on the same page. But there are some changes with regard to traffic patterns while inside the building. Teachers may have some no-go zones, and they'll be marked. So for each of the classrooms, in my particular classroom, I have paw prints on the floor, and those are no-go zones. So the students will know where they are and are not able to be to make sure that everybody stays safe. Of course, we're going to continue to social distance as much as humanly possible. The classrooms have been separated out, so when we are on campus, the students will be 6 feet apart. In the social center, there are desks in the social center so that when they're eating lunch or doing, in between classes, when they're on break, they are socially distancing. So none of that furniture can be moved without prior permission, and that's just in an effort to make sure that everybody stays safe. Again, we're going to have some more paw prints on the floor in front of the fridge and the microwave so that students can kind of gauge how far back they need to be in line for those kinds of things. And those items will be cleaned regularly. Right now, we're not going to be issuing lockers to students unless there are extenuating circumstances. In that case, they can talk to the office. Basically, there's going to be backpack protocols in the classroom, so the teachers will be instructing students on what that looks like, where backpacks can and cannot go. Rolly backpacks might be a way to go, and making sure that backpacks are not ginormous and don't leave a huge footprint in the classroom. That might be the best way to go when we return to campus. At home, of course, just make sure that your workstation is organized so that you can find all the stuff that you need. Bringing water to school is going to be really important when we come back to campus. The water stations are going to be turned off. We are encouraging students not to share food, drinks, utensils. In the classroom, class supplies are not going to be shared. So it's really going to be important when we do return to the classroom that students have everything that they need, and be expecting that. So in addition to classroom supplies, teachers should be putting supply lists either in their syllabus or as a separate document on the MMACHS webpage so that you know what students should have for each of their classes. Typical things are going to be their laptops, textbooks, pen, paper. In my particular class, they'll need thank you cards, index cards, so they may need other things. In sports medicine, they'll need fitness clothes so that they can do activities. In health and wellness, they may need those things. So the teachers will instruct the students what they are going to need for those classes, but they're not going to be able to borrow stuff most of the time. So it's really important that they're going to need to bring their own. If they do need to borrow stuff, they need to talk to us and let us know. We'll make sure that whatever it is that they need to borrow gets sanitized, but it would be best if they had their own. If students recognize the symptoms, if they're feverish, if they're generally not feeling good, not feeling themselves, it's really best if they stay home. It's really important that we make sure that we're not getting anybody else sick. And if there are any issues, questions, or concerns, please make sure you reach out to us and let us know so that we can work with you. And again, communicating is going to be our best problem-solving strategy. If we can identify it, we can solve it. So help us identify what needs to be taken care of so that our students can be as successful as possible. If you have any questions, we are always available, and there should be a document in the comments that will allow you to send those questions in so that we can get them answered for you. Thank you for your time, and let's try to have the best year we can.
Hello, my name is Melissa Bishop, and I am the counselor here at MMACHS, and I am here just to touch on a couple of things that as parents would be helpful for you to support the success of your student during this remote learning time. This is new territory for everyone. We have basically rewritten what education looks like, and like Mrs. Ernest has said, this is not ideal. This is not what we have chosen. But as we get into the semester, students and families are really going to be able to identify what is working for them, things that they can strengthen, things that they need to change to help support their student as they attend classes, they study, and completing homework. One thing to remember is that your student will be attending class from 8 a.m. until 2:15. They are going to be an active student during that time frame, which means typically for most students at the end of the day, they are going to need a brain break and an eye break before they start on homework. So just as your student in years past, they've come home, they've gotten an after-school snack, they've taken a little bit of a break, that is more than appropriate for the remote learning situation. Also, give students a chance to just kind of take a break and reset before they dig into homework. Ninth graders are going to be given agendas and taught how to use them. This is going to be essential between their agendas that they use and their Schoology calendar. This is going to be an incredible tool for them to keep track of assignments and to really be organized throughout the year. One thing that I would really like to stress is the importance of setting a routine. Making sure that students have an area that works for them, that minimizes distractions as they are in class, is just going to be essential. Having your student in their room might be okay. Having them on their bed covered up in their blankets, so all they want to do is fall asleep. Maybe not the best environment. Some things that I will cover tonight are tips for making this all work. So again, the agenda, the student agenda and Schoology calendar, why students need to use them, ways that parents can help students manage their time, what does that study environment look like, and ways to help your student identify resources that they can use, especially in remote learning, and how to advocate for themselves. You will see a picture of the student's agenda, freshman agenda that they will use this year. And for grades 10 through 12, any sort of agenda will work, or if they have figured out a way, whether it's on their phone or on their Schoology calendar, to keep track of assignments, that is fabulous. Each freshman is given this agenda because learning how to keep track of assignments, due dates, what is going on during your week is super, super essential. During MMACHS 101 for freshmen, I'm going to teach them how to use their agenda, how each day they put assignments in, and then they go and put when assignments are due, and how to cross-check that when that assignment is completed, they indicate that that's completed, and then when they've actually turned it in, they can go back and indicate that, yes, I have turned that in and that is good to go. In looking at the best use of a time for students in remote learning, again, your student is going to be in school, an active learner from 8 a.m. until 2:15. That is a school day. At the end of the day, students are going to know what they have for homework and then also the due dates. Assignments are going to be listed on their Schoology calendar, and they should be put in their agenda also. In all the years that we've been doing an AB schedule, one thing that I've always received back from students in the best way to approach homework, especially for incoming freshmen, but this still applies to sophomores, juniors, and seniors, is A-Day homework on A-Day, B-Day homework on B-Day, and now we're adding in C-Day homework on C-Day. This is super, super essential for students to start with and to keep up with. And the reason for that is that the information is fresh in their mind. If they're doing A-Day homework on A-Days, the information is fresh in their mind. If they have questions, they have time to look at that and to reach out, to use their resources, and also to reach out with their questions. And it really helps them not get behind in their schoolwork. So this stems back from advice that graduating seniors gave me 7, 8, 9 years ago when the district first went to an AB schedule, is what is the most important thing that students can do, and that's A-Day homework on A-Days, B-Day homework on B-Days, and now we're adding C-Day homework on C-Days. A good approach to homework is to complete it within a chunk of time. Again, the students may need a little brain and eye break right after they've completed school at 2:15, so that's okay for them to do. As they begin their homework, chunking that into certain time periods is really a great way to approach homework. Sitting down for 2-3 hours straight, not really the best way to learn. Chunk it into 20 minutes, 30-minute time frames, then go ahead and take a 5-10 minute break. Something that doesn't have to do with school. Go out, get some exercise, move around, go play with the animal, whatever it may be, but then make sure that you go back to doing that homework. And this is where parents can really support their student, is making sure that they're getting those breaks, but then also that they go back to that homework until it is completed. Again, studying for hours without a break is not really conducive to actually learning the information and internalizing that information. Breaking it up into little amounts of time is one of the best ways to go about that. And we've talked a little bit about setting up a routine, not only for the school day and for homework, but also for dinner and evening. And one essential key that I'd like to address is setting a reasonable bedtime. We have a policy that homework is going to be due by 8 p.m. on Monday through Friday. We're not doing the weekends, and that is because we have identified and we really support that these students are getting a good night's rest. That is super important for students to be able to have that opportunity to sleep and be prepared for the next day. Also, keeping their phones out of their rooms is really beneficial so that they're not distracted, they're not tempted to go on. I have 2 teenagers myself, and they don't like that. They don't like it when I have them put their phones out of their room. But as a parent, I can really see the difference when the difference in the quality of their sleep when they have their phones in their rooms and when they're not. Some tips for getting started with remote learning, some things to kind of just be aware of, is that students will need an area to do schoolwork. And there's no one great area that will work for everyone. Students need to find an area that works for them within their family, that's comfortable, but also doesn't encourage them to fall asleep. If you have music on, or if your student listens to music as they are studying, make sure that it may be a different genre of music than they usually listen to, or that they're not singing along with the words, that it truly is kind of that background noise rather than what they normally listen to when they're jamming out to. Setting a routine for the school day, completing homework, evening time and bedtime, keeping that consistent throughout the day, having that look as close to past years as possible. That's really going to help just with the transition and the consistency, not only to high school, but also with remote learning. Students need to also take a break from social media while studying or doing homework. It's so easy to kind of go down that rabbit hole of, oh, I'll just check my Instagram account, and then 40 minutes later, you realize, oh my goodness, I've been on this for 40 minutes when I only thought that it was maybe 5 or 10. And it's really helpful, if possible, or to the extent possible, that students have their own space away from other members of the family that may be working from home also. So just somewhere that they can study, they can be in class, they can have their own area. As much as possible, that would be very helpful for students as they do remote learning. You've heard Ms. Ernest touch on this, and one thing that MMACHS really stresses and helps students learn is how to advocate for themselves. We want students to speak to their teachers. We want them to learn how to communicate with adults and with their teachers and come up with a way to problem solve whatever is going on, whatever concern that they may have. I believe Ms. Ernest phrased it as, if a concern arises, the response will be, have you spoken to your teacher? For some students, that verbal communication is pretty hard. That first contact might be through email, which is a great way to make contact with your teachers, just to let them know that, hey, this is a concern that I have. And in MMACHS 101, one of the sessions is going to go through how do you write an appropriate, respectful email to your teacher to communicate to them that you have a concern. There are also lots and lots of resources that MMACHS offers to help students be successful. One thing that we teach and support our students in doing is identifying what resources outside of their teacher they can utilize. So especially with remote learning, if they have a question, they reach out to their teacher. Their teacher might not be able to respond to them immediately. So instead of sitting there just stuck, where else can they go for resources? Where can they get that information? For example, in a math class, student might go to Khan Academy. For an English class, they might be able to access the ISU database. So looking at the different resources that students have available for them beyond the teacher also. We're also going to address how to access those resources. Are they double checking Schoology? Are they looking at the information that the teacher has already put out there, has already presented? Is there anything that they can go back and look at? Really utilizing that resources that is Schoology and what teachers have put on that. Identify other ways to access the information. And for our sophomores through seniors, they've had this information in Cornerstone. For our freshmen, you're going to be learning it. But there were so many different tips and hints and ways to learn that they learned in Cornerstone. Remember that. Go back and remember what you were taught in Cornerstone and utilize those resources. However, if your student is still struggling, then please have them ask for help from teachers. Have them ask for help from myself, the counselor, and admin. Have them ask for help for their classmates. We never ever want a student just to be sitting there frozen, not being able to do anything. So they're going to be taught what their resources are, how to access them, and then also encouraged to reach out for help. So with this year, it's going to look different than any other years. There's going to be some times that we're going to say this works, this doesn't. We're going to have to adjust here and there. But I'm really excited for this year to start, to get kids either here, hopefully one day in the hybrid or at least in the building, but then also to have them remote learning and at least be able to see their faces over Zoom calls. And so we just have to dive in and get this year started and adjust where we need to. But with everyone's support, we're going to have a great year at MMACHS. So if there are any questions from this, I believe Ms. Ernest is going to send out a way to submit questions. So thank you and have a great night.
Hey parents, my name is Blake Godet. I'm a social studies teacher here at MMACHS, and I'm going to be taking you through a little bit of background on Schoology, which is going to be what every teacher in the building will be utilizing in order to dish out assignments, put up resources for your students. It's going to be the primary way that we conduct remote learning and frankly a good chunk of our in-class learning too in terms of keeping all of our resources in one spot for the kids. Now, some of your students have a lot of experience with this. A lot of teachers in the building have been using the free version of Schoology for the last few years, and there's a good chance too that some of the teachers in the different middle schools have used this, but now everybody's going to be using it. So it's really important that you understand this tool that your student will be using. So I'm going to go over a couple of the different functions that the kids are going to be utilizing so that you have a good understanding of what's expected of them. Right now we have one of our teachers' sons is a student here at MMACHS, and they have kindly donated their Schoology so that we can show you an example from a student's perspective. This is what your student's page will look like when they first log in. They will be on the course dashboard right here, which will show all the different classes that they are currently enrolled in. So this is an example of a senior's course dashboard. You can also find the courses up here by clicking on these courses and seeing them all listed in front of you here. Okay. The other thing you can have is recent activity, which is different posts that the teachers have put up, usually updates or reminders that the teachers have put up, all in one page right in front of you. Okay. Students will also be asked to turn assignments in on here. When they do that, their assignments, I'm going to use my class, economics, as an example. They will have an assignment like this one right here. They'll be able to click on it. They will be able to submit their assignment over here, and they will be able to upload different files. So for instance, if they were working on a Word document, they can upload that Word document right here as part of their assignment. So that way, it doesn't matter if they're a remote learner or if they're learning in school that day, they'll be able to submit all their assignments right there. Us as teachers are going to have the ability to comment on them. our view shows right here when your student has turned it in. It shows us if it was turned in late, and it shows us if they're missing their assignment there too. So it's going to be a really easy way to keep that all together. I'm not going to go over groups very much, but groups are mostly clubs and or the class that they participate in, and it's going to be important for the calendar function, which I'm going to go over in just a second. So if your student is a member of HOSA or Key Club or MRC, different posts from those groups will come right here. The really important thing, or a thing that's going to really help them keep them organized, is the calendar function. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and here's the icon right here, and move over to September. The calendar function does a number of things. It can help save events for that class. So for instance, if a class is going on a field trip or has an off-campus learning activity that they're taking part in, it can be listed there too. You can also list all the things that are due for their different classes, homework, etc. So if you go up to the top here, and you see it says 9 out of 9 calendars, and look at this drop down menu, you will see all the different classes and groups that your student is a part of. And what they can also do is they can color code these so they show up as different colors on their calendar. So right now, Ms. Gore's son is a senior, so he has the senior calendar right here, and it's this kind of, they're all kind of a pastel-y color, which I think is so you can write over the top, but that annoys me a little bit, but that's neither here nor there. So she has selected right here, and let's say they want to make all of their A-Day classes, for instance, the exact same color, and they can go through and they can show all their A-Day classes in this exact color, or they can mix it up by class if they want, and then they will all show up as different colors on here. So it allows them to see what's due on a certain day. It allows them to see when they're going to be gone. Some teachers will put in reminders to, for instance, if you're signing up for concurrent credit classes, many times you have to bring in your social security number. So you'll have teachers say, put a reminder on their calendar that says, bring your social security number in. But that's going to help the students stay organized, particularly when we're in hybrid and they're in some days and they're out some days. It'll help them keep all of that straight. So from a student's perspective, from a parent's perspective, if you ever have a student that, if the teacher is saying that they're missing work, you can always go in, you can look at their coursework, you can see if they submitted assignments under those assignments. If your student's ever struggling to turn anything in like that, you can reference this to help them get through that. But we're obviously going to be working with them quite a bit, particularly over the first couple of weeks, to make sure that they really get the hang of that. The good news is, even though there might be some different websites that are being hit from Schoology, as Mrs. Ernest mentioned, science might link out to CK12. This will be the central hub. Every teacher will be using it, and it'll be very nice for every student to be able to start. One more thing I want to point out from a student perspective before I hand this over to Mrs. Gore for the parent perspective on this is our plan right now is, in order to get students into Zoom, is for every teacher to link to their Zoom classroom from their Schoology page. So again, Evan's in my class, he can go to Econ, and right at the very top there it says Goday's classroom link. So when it's time for him to go to economics, he can click on that classroom link, and there it is. And as you will see, it will prompt him to join our Zoom classroom, which I'm not going to do right now. Every teacher will have a link at the top of their Schoology page. So while it might be smart to bookmark those different pages, if for some reason you don't have access to your bookmarks, maybe you're on a different device, if they're in Schoology, they can go to the top of the page and always find their way into that Zoom classroom. So that's it from the student perspective. Again, make sure that your students are asking questions of their teachers if they feel lost. Don't let them just struggle. And we will be trying to solicit those questions from them throughout the first couple of weeks. And hopefully we all get on the same page quickly, and this will make things as easy as possible for our kids. All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Margot Gore, and I am a math teacher at Meridian Medical Arts, and I am also a Meridian Medical Arts parent. So last spring, my son and I had great wild adventures in online learning while I was trying to work from home full time, and he was trying to sort out how to be an effective and efficient online student. So I wanted to go over a couple of things that I think will be easier for parents this year. So the first thing that I'd like to talk about is this overdue section that shows up on every student's front page in Schoology. So as a parent, if you walk in and you see that the student has something that is overdue, that would be the first thing that you probably want to talk with that student about. And then everything that's upcoming is going to be listed below that. So what my son and I would do is every Monday morning we would get up like 15 minutes early and we would have a conversation about what is coming up this week that you need to work on. And in addition to him having his agenda, I would write a list, and then every evening when we were having dinner, I'd check in with him. Did you submit this? Did you do this? Did you do this? So that way it wasn't this daunting task to try to sort out. One thing that will be easier this year is everything will be in Schoology. So it's not like you have to compare what shows up in Schoology and what shows up in PowerSchool. All assignments will be in Schoology. So even if a teacher gives an assignment that goes to a different website, like I use Khan Academy, there will still be a reminder in Schoology that that assignment is out there. So you can watch for it that way. These overdue assignments, if you were part of our Schoology group last year, sometimes those could stack up pretty heavily. This year, we as a staff have made a collective agreement that we're going to be putting in reminder zeros. So if those things are overdue, we're going to start filling those so that a student doesn't have 10 or 12 overdue assignments, so that you can see what the net effect is on their grade. But if they're here and they're overdue, that could mean sometimes that the student submitted the assignment in a non-traditional way. So instead of uploading their document via Schoology, it might mean that they emailed the document to their teacher. So when they submit something in a non-traditional way, just know it might show up in the overdue section. As a parent, one thing that we have done to make life a little bit easier on you is we are putting on the calendar what day it is, whether it's A day or B day. So please make sure that your student is enrolled in Meridian Medical Arts so that the first thing that they see is these purple assignments of what's going on. So this is A day classes 1 through 4. This is B day classes 5 through 8. And that I think will be even more important when we get into hybrid, because if there's a 4-day week, the schedule will change a little bit. Last thing is to be able to go into a course, and if a student tells you, she didn't tell me what I was supposed to do with the assignment, my strong suggestion is actually go into the class and then look at the resources that are there to see if there really are resources. So sometimes the natural tendency for kids is to just skip straight through whatever like videos or learning activities there are and go straight to the assignment because that's the part that counts for a grade, but you should be able to find those resources there. So hopefully this is a better, smoother year than last year. We are working on getting your parent logins for Schoology so that you could log in and see everything that your student sees on Schoology. But as a parent, I never created a parent login last year. I would just come and look over my son's shoulder and go, okay, show me what we've got going on this week. But hopefully with just a little bit of you and your student having a conversation at the beginning of the week and then every evening throughout the week for a couple of minutes, you can help your students stay on top of their schoolwork. Thanks so much.